Hello, everybody, and welcome to this FinTech Futures webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Here we will be talking about real-time payment processing beyond traditional banking. My name is Tyler Paith. I'm a reporter at FinTech Futures, and I'm very happy to be hosting this webinar today. Now, just a few notices before we get going. We will be accepting questions throughout this webinar, which we will be answering at the end. So please remember to submit those questions on the chat available on your screen now, and we will get to them at the end. Also, we have a few polls integrated into this presentation, so please feel free to share your thoughts, your experiences, and your current challenges with real-time payments, and me and my co-host will be answering them as we go. Of course, I'm not here alone today. I've got a very, very important speaker joining us. But before we get there, we will have a look at the agenda. So the agenda of this webinar today is going to be examining the business use cases of real-time payments. We're going to be looking at ways of transforming payment speed and ways of building a multi-currency strategy. And we will also be defining the crucial steps of implementation for real-time payments. So without further ado, I'm very happy to be introducing my speaker with me today. His name is Achille Pagliaro, the Senior Director of Payment Success at Papaya Global. Achille, how are you?
Hi, Taylor. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much. All good. Thank you. And I'm happy to be here today to run this webinar. And with your permission, I would like to introduce a little bit by myself, talking about my career, so at least we can give additional insight to the audience. So, as Taylor said, my name is Achille Pagliaro. I'm the Senior Director of Payment Success Papaya Global, based in London. I work for Papaya. I joined the company almost a year ago. I'm managing the payments division here at Papaya from implementation, operational, and strategic perspective. So trying to facilitate our helping our customers, existing customers and new customers, to have a smoothly end-to-end process and offering a new solution into the market, to have an efficient process between payroll payments and payments in general. My experience in payment industry is about 15, 16 years and over a decade in the payroll payments industry. So hopefully I can give a little bit more insight as we go with the webinar. And thank you, Taylor.
Thank you for that introduction, Achille. It's really great to have you here with us. I understand that you're a very busy man working at a very busy company, so we're very fortunate to have your time today. Now, we have a lot of guests joining us right now from all across the world, a lot of different sectors. And as you know, they'll all be fairly familiar with real-time payments and its capability for payroll. Maybe we can start this conversation by just looking at some of the business use cases for real-time payments. Maybe you can talk us through that.
Yes. So I would start to discuss how the payments, I mean, like even the payroll and payments world, they've been obviously developed within the years. So if we remember, almost 30 years ago, we were paying salaries, our employees, with cash in an envelope. So since then, obviously, we moved to more, let's say, compliant and fastest and secured way to pay our employees or any payments that we are making in general. So we moved from the cash payments to the banking transfer, and then obviously the industry has evolved within the years. So we moved from cash to paying employees around the globe instantly. So and obviously this is a big achievement because the world also how we pay our employees is changing. So there needs to be a certain flexibility in terms of how we pay our employees. So the real-time payments obviously are really important nowadays because we're talking about several key aspects and benefits in terms of why we should use and find a vendor that can offer real-time payments globally. So you can avoid, obviously, payments delays, because we know that executing payments sometimes might take between 24 to 72 hours. Depends from the currency. It depends from other aspects that could be probably additional screening or approval issues. And also in terms of cost and how the market is evolving, and how the global workforce is expecting to get paid. I always say that there are three key important elements in the industry, which is um, efficiency, obviously, cost effectiveness, and transparency as well. So all of those, they will be also part of the transformation in the payments world. So I'm sure companies that they have obviously legal entities around the globe. They would like to have also a unified, let's say, end-to-end process between payroll and payments, and not having obviously different way how do they pay the employees, or how do they calculate their data in terms of payroll, and pay obviously in the most fastest and secured way.
Mm. That's a really, really fantastic answer, Achille. I think you've picked up a lot of really current trends that are happening in this space. We're going to be dissecting them a little bit further throughout our conversation. Now, if we just go ahead to our first poll, which payment-related risk currently poses the biggest challenges to your organization? This is our first poll for our listeners today. If they would like to participate in this poll, we'd love to find out your answers. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to do that. We've got quite a few options there. Is the biggest risk for you as maybe it's a security risk, or perhaps it's a financial risk, something like FX volatility or payment delays, as Achille was mentioning. Maybe it's operational risk, or maybe it's something to do with efficiency. Do let us know what those current challenges are for you. We'd love to find out and share our experiences here. Achille, while we have those polls coming through, can you tell us a little bit about what you sort of expect this outcome to be?
Sure, absolutely, Taylor. So first of all, I would say that all those risks or that we have here as a sort of our question, they are all valid points, and I'm sure that they are all linked to each other. But if I would pick one of those, I would say probably first the security risk, and then probably operational risk, and then the rest in terms of financial risk and efficiency.
I mean, I'm with you on that. It's it varies wildly depending on sort of what your operations pertain to, but it'd be very, very interesting. I think we've got all of our answers in now, so if we should fulfill those questions. Oh, so that you were actually bang on the mark, Achilles. So top dog is security risks. That's to do with fraud and data breaches. The second runner up is operational risks. Very, very interesting. So manual processes and reconciliation. And then joint third, we've got financial risks and efficiency risks. Very interesting. Well, thank you everybody for sharing your current experiences there. If we move on today, so this is really looking at where real-time payments are going. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Achille?
Yes. So basically, the global real-time payments is growing quite heavily in the past few years, as we can also see in this slide that we are presenting to the audience. So it's as I said before, the businesses are looking to have like a more flexible way to pay their employees, or making payments in general. So it's important to understand when you choose your provider, if they are able to offer those real-time payments. it is also the benefit around the real-time payments is also about cash flow in terms of financial or treasury teams, because we know that in terms of when we discuss about payroll, we know that the payroll is very complex sector. So sometimes the payroll departments, they need to rerun their payroll because they need to rectify some the data, and it might take time. So as per experience, you can see that some customers, they approve their payroll probably a day or 2 days before the payday, and obviously if you don't have the right solution in place, you might risk to pay your employees late, and we're talking about a very sensitive industry. So in terms of the cash flow optimization, is like that if you have you can offer instant or real-time payments, the funds can be in your wallet a day before of the payday. So at least even if you have approved the payroll summary late, at least you have a solution to mitigate the risk, because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to pay the employees on time. It's very it's a legal obligation, but also in terms of employer reputation. So if I'm employed and I get paid late, obviously the businesses, they might risk not to attract talents anymore, because they might just be worried that they are not able to pay for the service that they provide to their within their employer. So and if you are a global company, obviously you need to look for something that is offering like a service that is offering as much as they can real-time payments globally. As I was mentioning before, you need to streamline your end-to-end process.
Mm. You're absolutely right there. It's receiving payments and payroll is such a sensitive topic that it really has to be executed perfectly. I mean, we see here on the current slide presented to the audience about the projected market growth of this space rising to 284 billion, or around 284 billion by 2032, which really isn't that far away, which sort of emphasizes not only is it important now, but it's going to, continue to grow in significance. If we moving on then, so you know, this is really largely about speed. We talk about real-time payments. How you know, when we look at the thinking back to that previous figure of the market growth, what can you tell us about the evolution of real-time payments?
Sure. Absolutely. So the evolution is, I mean, like as we've seen from the slide, we are evolving. The market is evolving, and we're gonna offer more and more um, modern way to pay our workforce, or any other kind of payments that we are moving. We are paying. So we are moving from batch processing to mass payments. We need to manage multi-currency in most efficient way, and obviously the digital wallet integration opportunities. So when we say digital wallet opportunities, probably the ultimate goal is to have a sort of a virtual wallet for the employees in the future. So where we can give the flexibility to our workforce to choose how they would like to move their funds, if they would keep into the wallet, if they would send to their saving account, or to pay a relative. So that's how I see the world evolving in the future. And obviously also the employees are expecting to pay to get paid in different timelines. So at the moment, as we all know, there are certain period into the month when the contractual payday is due. Let's say, for example, last working day, or a fixed day into the month. Probably the employees, they might expect in the futures to get paid as they go. So by the time they are earning their salary from the first day of the month, before the end of the month. So giving this kind of flexibility will open to will open to help the businesses to hire talented, because obviously we have flexibility in how we work nowadays. After COVID, there is a lots of working from home, and more businesses, they are giving a trust to their employees. But at the same time, there is going to be flexibility in the payments world, where there are more secure, and they are fastest, and they are obviously more efficient.
That's a really, really interesting point to raise about sort of meeting employees where they want to be met and sort of the combination of flexible payment methods into that. We've just sort of gone past the December to January payroll period, which is always sort of a really contentious time for a lot of people, during Christmas coming into the new year. And, had had flexible payment methods been more prevalent in that period, I'm sure it'd have been a lot of the pain would have been alleviated. Now, in the title of this webinar, it's beyond traditional banking, and you excellently sort of pointed out in one of your earlier answers about the sort of more traditional forms of paying employees, cash in an envelope. We've all been there. Me and my first job, I remember. Um, so a, a lot of businesses that will be listening to this will be very, very familiar with those more traditional methods. What I'm interested to ask you, Achille, is, and I'm sure a lot of people don't really need that much convincing to be faster or to adopt faster technologies, but why real-time payments?
Yes. So it's really important to have real-time payments for working capital optimization. I was barely mentioned earlier in terms of giving additional timeline for treasury and businesses in terms of cash flow. So you don't have to fund probably your payroll entity 15 days or 10 days before. You can fund your payroll 1 day, 2 days before. Then obviously depends from the currency, depends from the calendar timeline that you're gonna have at your implementation stage. You have like obviously cost effectiveness in terms of transaction fees that you're gonna pay, because if we think, for example, a Swift payment probably is, for sure is more expensive than a real time payments, and it doesn't have the same probably effect that a real time might have. So using, for example, a local in-country bank account, some international transfers, the beneficiaries, they might incur in bank fees at the beneficiary bank. So that's, is going to be important as well. You can also have more control with your payments flow and better experience. So in this scenario, also, let me add a little bit more in terms of how you should probably choose your vendor when you are trying to globalize your end-to-end process with your payroll flow. So I would go and look especially for a vendor that could offer transparency, efficiency, and cost effectiveness. When I say transparency, you should be able to log into a payment platform, which they can offer you the full visibility from the end-to-end process, so the status of the payments, so you can be more proactive. You can see what is the balance in your wallet, and also you need to see when your payments are due, how the flow is going. In terms of efficiency, I would look for vendors that they have also integration with between payroll and payments. So how you can move your data across the businesses. We're talking about very sensitive information that we are exchanging, because we're talking about obviously information about individuals, third parties, and vendors. So it's important how your vendor is going to get this information and how they're going to store those information into the system. And also you need to look for high tech, less touch. What does it mean? That if the payments obviously needs to go automatically, they needs to be integrated via an API with obviously the financial institution that your vendor is gonna utilize to make sure that the payments are executed as expected, and there is no manual intervention, because obviously we know that with all effort that we can make, obviously we can make mistakes if we start trying to touch those files, which we shouldn't, because you can manipulate this information. So I would not recommend, for example, to use bank files. I know there's so many businesses, they still use bank files, which are not very, very secured, because you can open the file, you can change the information, and you can pay yourself, or you can pay someone else, and without probably knowing immediately. Obviously, when you're going to do an auditing, it might be too late to discover those, let's say, fraud or illegal action that can, the world of payments is growing, but also illegal action are growing. And also in the cost effectiveness. If you think, Taylor, that if you are a global company, to pay globally, you need to open in countries bank account, because there is certain authorities that they require to be paid by an in-country bank account. So you need to open a bank account. So you need to maintain those accounts. You need to have resources that they're going to look into this specific legal entity to make sure that the payments are executed. So if you have a company that's got 20 legal entities, if you put on the plate, obviously it's not convenient anymore if you do it yourself. So it's better probably you give to some vendors that they give you the option to pay on your behalf with in the secure way, and a cheaper in a cheaper way, because that's where is going to be obviously the cost optimization in terms of end-to-end process.
And that picks up on our earlier poll with the fraud concerns that most of our audience are facing. I'm just picking up on. I mean, it's very interesting what you've just said, but I want to pick up on one specific point that you said, which was the globalization of companies. You mentioned that a lot of companies are, well, they're trusting their workforce more to work from different locations, maybe work from home, but they're also increasingly employing more people across the world as they go global, which is expected. Maybe you have a team in APAC, maybe you have a team in North America. So I'm really interested then, when you're dealing with payroll, is one thing to go fast, but then what about dealing with multi-currencies? How can you tell us about different multi-current strategies and what needs to be considered within them?
Sure. Of course. As you mentioned, obviously, you can also have, for example, a company that has got employees in Asia Pac, but they would like to get paid in a different currency. For example, you're running your payroll in Singapore dollars, but a portion of your employees, they would like to get paid in USD. So how are you going to manage that? So that's obviously risk, FX risks that is going to impact, but it's not only on the business side, but also at the beneficiary side, because you need to make sure that the employee, the workforce is they're going to receive the exact amount that's supposed to receive in terms of salary. So you need to have a provider that they can manage their effects. They probably have a chance to hedge the currency conversion in advance. So you make sure that you can lock the rate, so there is no fluctuation in there. So you might not gonna risk. Well, you can have a possibility to have more, but you can also have a possibility to have less. So that's when the big problem is going to happen. So for a beneficiary, you wouldn't mind if you're going to get more, but for an employer, it's going to be a cost. So that's where you need to look. And also, there is lots of banking relationship that I was mentioning earlier. So you need to have to open several bank accounts around the globe. And also in terms of multi-currency strategy, not all companies, they might handle all the currencies. So probably companies, they might have biggest currencies like can be USD, euros, GBP. So at the same time, they need to exchange currencies if they need to pay different legal entities around the globe. So and for example, companies like us, like Papaya, what we do, we can support in that and manage the FX risk on behalf of the customers, because we might have access to a better rate comparing to the businesses, because Taylor, we move around 35 billions a year in terms of transactions, so of the value of the transaction. So for sure we can negotiate, we can offer a better solution, and again, this is going back to the cost optimization and also the payments rails. You might pay your employees in Singapore, for example, but you're gonna use probably wire transfers, so which as I said earlier, they might incur in bank fees. So you need to have like a company that has got local currencies, local accounts. But not only that, you need to also look at the regulation. So which is we didn't touch this point yet, but it's quite important how your vendor is managing your money, if they are regulated, if they have they are regulating in different countries, they have license to pay those in those countries, in those currencies, and obviously the security, looking at the technology, looking the vendor, if they have a recurring auditing on their platform, if the API is always updated. So and making sure that your data is protected and also your money is protected. So and also in multi-currency, there is a differentiator between safeguarded accounts and trusted accounts. So businesses, they need to look also if a vendor is able to offer safeguarded accounts where you have your specific accounts, your money is protected under the client money rules, for example, from the FCA, which this money cannot be touched from the vendor, even if the worst scenarios can happen. And they are, let's say, at individual legal entity level, a currency level, those safeguarded accounts are open. When you have trusted account, for example, the money is mixed up with other customers' currency. So even in terms of reconciliation at the month end, because it's also an important part of the payroll flow, or for finance and also for payroll departments, it's going to be very difficult to to reconcile 20, 30, 50 entities every month. So you need to have like a very efficient way, because we know after a week the payroll engine starts again. So you don't have time to to look in deeper if you don't have a full visibility of it.
Mm. It's really, really interesting. I think, listening to what you're saying about managing these multi-currency strategies. There's a lot to think about. When managing a global workforce and paying a global workforce, it's not easy. It's not easy, no matter which way you cut it. I want to sort of delve down a little bit into the sort of FX risks side of it. I mean, what can you tell us about those risks? What are they? And what should we be looking out for?
So for obviously the FX risks, what you need to know, and we were mentioning obviously earlier, is like the in terms of transaction risk. So when you're paying a different currency from different currency, comparing of how your payroll is in which currencies is calculated. So basically between the let's say the payroll summary until we're gonna pay, there are a few key elements that they might be risky for employer, but also for, I mean, mainly for the beneficiary. So when we translate and when we are exchanging those currencies, as I was mentioning earlier, there might be a chance that you're gonna get paid not the exact amount. So it's gonna have an economical impact at the beneficiary level, but also from the employer level. So you need to, as I said, you need to have like a company that can manage it. They have knowledge in terms of how to prepare those payments? Are they are capable to make sure that even if you are paying in a multi-currency, the FX is not going to impact both parties? So that's very crucial. So as I said, if your payroll is due to be paid at the month end, and you are not able to lock the rate when expected, that there's going to be a fluctuation. So and then it's going to be a problem, because you probably need to resend money or additional money to the beneficiary, which is going to give additional work to the, let's say, finance and operational team, and you might risk to breach the legal obligation that you have with your workforce. So those elements are needs to be taken in consideration. How you pay, how you manage those risks, and maybe going to the market to find out a vendor that can manage those risks for you. So at least you don't have to be worried about how is going to be the ultimate transfer.
Yes, because mistakes in this department are costly, not just in a monetary sense, but also in sort of like a compliance sense as well. There's a lot of risks in FX risks. Um,
Yes.
yes. So leading on, I think we've got our next poll just coming up, everybody. Yes, here it is. The question is, what percentage of your cross-border payments typically experience delays or complications? Please, everybody, if you would like to just participate on that poll there, that you should be able to click the option that is most relevant to you. The options are less than 5%, 5 to 10%, 11 to 20%, or more than 20%. The question again is, what percentage of your cross-border payments typically experience delays or complications? We'll just let everybody just sort of submit their answers there to that poll. Achille, while they do that, let's make a prediction. I mean, I'm hoping we'll have 100%, say less than 5%. But what's your prediction here?
Yeah, same as you, Taylor. I hope obviously the 100% will be less than 5%. So let's see. It would be interesting to understand a little bit further.
Definitely. I think we've got all of our the last few coming through. So yes, we've got all of our submissions now. Let's reveal our answers. Oh wow. Okay. Well, less than 5% is yeah, 44.4% have said that. Runner up behind that is 5 to 10%, about a third of you said that. And then joint third place is 11 to 20% and more than 20%. Achille, what do those results tell us?
Well, Taylor, it's very interesting. Okay. I understand that the majority of the audience here has got 44% less than 5%, but we are talking about payroll payments, but payments in general. So even if the majority of the audience has got less than 5%, is quite high in my opinion, and is quite worrying. Because first of all, we need to understand what is the like the 5% on how many transactions we're talking about, because it might be, talking about 10,000 transactions, which is quite high. So we are talking about a very sensitive business. So we should really be super accurate. We should have 0% in terms of delays or complication, because it's, as I said, it's a sensitive business. So for the ones that put more than 20%, between 11 and 20%, probably I would recommend to investigate further why they're experiencing those delays and complication. What is the issue behind it? And probably explore a different. I'm not sure if it's a vendor or if they are doing in-house, but I would definitely recommend to explore to connect with let's say a PSA that can support those cross-border payments, and looking at the rate in terms of what is the percentage of the accuracy of the payments made on time.
Mm. Yes, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed very sooner rather than later, definitely. But thank you everybody for participating in that poll there. Just a note: we are now over the halfway mark through this conversation with Achille. For anybody who has any questions that they'd like to submit, or anything that they'd like to ask Achille, please do put it in the Q&A box there on your screen. We've got a few questions coming through already, which is good to see. But we will be getting to those at the end of our conversation shortly. Now, Kili, we've spoken a lot about the FX risk, or the cross-border element of it. I think quite central to the payroll process is the banking relationships. Can you tell us a little bit about how Papaya sort of addresses that and what are general considerations for those relationships?
Yes, obviously, as Papaya, when I joined Papaya Taylor, the first thing the first feedback I've given to the business was the incredible technology that Papaya has launched for to the market. So the both payroll and payments platform are incredible. So in terms of transparency, efficiency, and you can see like customers, they are really appreciating what we have given offer to the market. So we have like on this like managing banking relationship. So this is going to connect back to what we were saying earlier. So if you have like if you're a big company with 260,000 people in this case, for example, how are you going to manage all of those? So each payroll probably will be processed in a different way. The payments are made in a different way. So you might use some they might use wire payments, some others real-time payments, some others they can use backs. So you don't have efficiency in there. You don't have definitely no efficiency in there. So with Papaya, what we did say, actually we need to offer something unique to the market, which is payments platform connected to the payroll platform, connected to the HRL system of customers. So the exchange of the information is done basically automatically between 3 different platforms. And we have done an integration with the big financial institution here at Papaya, which they support us in making those payments, helping us out to make sure that we can offer globally solution for instant payments, fast payments, same day payments, and avoiding just changing to the market with the old payment methods. I understand, for example, in UK, there is a common payment methods which is called BACS. Yeah, I'm sure everyone is familiar. But if we
Which is
think
like
about
the UK, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
it's basically 3 working days. So if you think about it, it takes 3 working days for the packs to be processed. So and obviously this will give 3 days back, 3 days less to the payroll calendar. So the payroll businesses, they need to be rushed, but you can use fast payments, which is very pretty much instant. So connecting with the big financial institution directly from the platform is going to be a benefit. Otherwise, a company like, for example, Samsung should have probably, I don't know, 50 banks to execute those payments, because they might not have the solution in all places. And also it's important to understand about a backup plan, because you might have a bank that can support payments, but at the same time, what's going to happen if the platform of the bank is going down for technical issues, or has been hacked? You never know what are you gonna do. Like, do the business have the backup plan? I will look into this. So as Papaya, we offer a different solution also for this kind of scenarios. If something is wrong with the bank, at least we have We have a solution available for our customers. So we have done a connection with several big financial institutions that they help us out.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, I mean, you know, trying to manage all of those relationships individually would be quite hectic, I'd imagine. We spoke briefly. I just want to pick up on something that we were talking about in one of our earlier slides when we were talking about the strategies, is the actual payment rails. Now here on our next slide, we see this quite strong statement that not all payment rails are created equal. Can you maybe explain a little bit about what that statement means? And furthermore, why are 14% of cross-border payments not completed? What's going on there?
Yeah. So basically, we need to define a few things. So when we say payment rates, we are talking about, for example, local route, for example, and or cross border, like international transfer, and also there are different rails, which can be bank rail or can be also a card rail. Yeah. So when we say global average of 14% of cross-border payments are not completed or incur charges, that's what we're talking about. So it's like, has got your vendor a local route to offer to you. So what does it mean? That you have basically a local solution. You have an in-country bank account, which is going to transfer the money instantly, and is going to be from Norway to Norway, for example, yeah, and not sending money from, let's say, Spain to Norway, yeah. So that is going to be a different, that is going to be the problem, because the beneficiary bank in Norway might apply charges from, for receiving these payments. And sometimes when you send cross-border, like international payments, comparing to the local route, they might also be incurred in additional screening at the banking level. So I know that I'm sure that the majority of the audience has experience when we're talking about, say, oh, the payments is stuck in compliance. So what does it mean? So the banks, they reserve the rights to stop any kind of payments if they believe that they need additional information, because this specific transaction is related to a beneficiary that it might be, it might have the same name of someone that is under sanction, or any other specific scenarios that the banks are looking for. The thing is, the banks, they don't disclose this, because it's how the system is built. So they just ask for additional information. So this is another additional, let's say, solution or tool that we have here at Papaya. Before sending, which we can explain a little bit more probably at later on. But as Papaya, what we do a sort of checks on terms of beneficiaries. So before we go live with any project, before we execute any payments, we just making sure that we validate the beneficiary. So we add all the information to avoid any additional screening at the banking level. I can tell you that the percentage is quite low of payments that are stuck for additional screening at the banking level. And more you pay globally, and more you can incur in those screening. So that's why we have launched this solution, which is reducing a lot. But what is going to be the ultimate impact? That the employees will not get paid. Sometimes, it might take a few days, it might take a week for the funds to be released, or if sometimes they don't even release, they just reject the payments. So, and that's when we're talking about payments that are not completed, or there are charges. So we need to look at these specific scenarios. Say, okay, can you pay locally? Do you have an in-country bank account? Are you compliant to make those payments? So
It's really interesting. So Papaya customers are essentially have their payments streamlined even before it reaches the bank to sort of maximize the approval rate, when it gets to those rails.
absolutely correct.
Very, very, very interesting. I think one thing that we've sort of haven't we've touched upon it. We haven't really discussed it yet. Is the security, the fraud, and the sort of compliance elements of multi-currency strategies. If we just go on to our next slide, it should be there. We are fantastic. So, what can you tell us about the security element and the compliance element of it? Because, of course, the financial services industry is one of the most highly regulated industries in the world. So, how does that sort of fit in with making multi-currency transactions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We touched a little bit earlier, but obviously, the payments world is evolving, as I was saying earlier. But at the same time, also is evolving are evolving the illegal activities. Scenarios where they're trying to intercept, obviously, information that when payments are executed or when data is exchanged. So as I was mentioning earlier, a vendor, obviously, first of all, there needs to be regulated. So you need to make sure that the vendor that you're using is a regulated vendor, which they can handle the client money, and they can they are able to they are compliant, obviously, and making sure that the payments can be executed. Otherwise, that you're gonna start. If you're not a regulated vendor, you might use third parties to make payments in terms of um, and using local routes in the sense which it's not actually your vendor managing your money, so they are handling to third parties. But how do you know that those third parties, how the security is? Yes, with, for example, with the Papaya, you can audit in our platform. We are regulated, we know, we have the knowledge, and we have obviously a strong compliance and legal teams that they are always looking. They're all on top of everything. If there is also a regulation that is changing in a specific country, so we capture those well in advance to make sure that if for whatever reason we cannot execute payments, we inform our customers. We try also to find a solution if we don't have a solution because there is a specific requirements that unfortunately is not possible. Obviously, we guide our customers as well. So we just don't leave the customer say, actually, I cannot support this. Now find out by yourself. No, that's how not we work here at Papaya. We also help our customer to say, okay, actually, probably the best route to execute this kind of payments is X, Y, Z. So to avoid, obviously, fraud or criminal, impact on the flow, need to make sure that whatever platform we are using is audited all the time. It's always on top of the regulation. If the APIs are upgraded regularly, because as you can appreciate, the integration, once there is an integration, but you grow as a company, so you might increase also the number of transactions. So if your technology is not going to support this, there might be a chance that the criminals might have impacted the end-to-end process. So, and obviously cross-border payments, we're talking about lots of regulation around the globe because each country is working in a different way. So if you are company and you would like to do this by yourself, it's going to be a massive headache, Taylor. It's not worth to have it because you might breach the regulation. You might not be compliant. So you believe that you can make those payments in this country as you used to do in the past, but maybe you didn't get the information that the regulation has changed. So who is going to tell to a customer, to a business, that this regulation? I mean, I know there are compliance teams, but we're talking about experts here, yeah, which we are here in terms of Papaya to do this. It's bread and butter for us. Let me use this English expression, and say that we work on daily basis on this. We, with our customers. So that's where I would go and looking for to make sure that the platform that is executing payments is actually secure, if the businesses, they have a strong compliance team, if there is no manual intervention, because when there is manual intervention, you expose yourself to the massive risk. If it's regulated businesses, if there are in countries bank accounts, so all of those are the key elements to be checked before you sign with the new vendor.
Absolutely. And, if there's always the risk as well, if you choose a faulty vendor that's non-compliant, it's only going to come back on the customer, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's really good and really reassuring to hear that Papaya has all these sort of people in place who are experts in their field and keep constant real-time monitoring on changing regulations, because I see it myself in my own work, how, almost every week there's a new regulation to abide by. And regulators are very unforgiving as well. They won't be like, "Oh, well, oh, it's okay, you didn't realize." They'll just penalize you, and it could cost you your business. So it's a very, very key element. And we maybe taking all of this information that we've sort of accumulated so far. So we've talked about sort of the FX risks, the fraud element of it, the cross-border element of it. I want to sort of package this now into an implementation roadmap. Okay, so if I'm a business listening to this webinar now, and I'm thinking, oh, where do I start with this? Where do I want the speed and advantages of real time payments, but I don't know where to go. Maybe can you maybe paint a little bit of a roadmap for us in terms of real time payments?
Yes, absolutely, Taylor. So first thing I would like to say that as Papaya, as a business, we can implement the payments within 4 weeks maximum. So which is quite fast in terms of launching payments with the Papaya. So we have obviously dedicated team which they will guide our customers. So, first of all, obviously, if we're talking about obviously payments, I would like to go through a roadmap in terms of, okay, where I would like to go live, which legal entity I would launch first. So, planning obviously your resources, making sure that the vendor that you're going to choose has got the enough resources assigned to you to make sure that the implementation before going live with the project is asking for important part of the implementation plan, which could be a penny test, which could be, for example, a calendar configuration, which could be, for example, the KYC completed, like knowing your customers. So obviously understand how you can integrate your data. For example, if you are using a different payroll provider, you would like to use only payments as a solution, how you can integrate your HR system that you are currently using at the moment, or using your existing payroll provider, how you can move the data. Because which if the platform that you're going to use for payments, for example, can connect with your HR system to get the information in terms of payroll summary, and also looking at the cost of what is going to be in terms of launching a new entity with a different provider. So there are several factors that needs to be looked at it. So it's quite at Papaya, we always obviously trying to help the customers and guide the customers. So I always say that the collaboration between the two parties is crucial, Taylor. When you do an implementation, you need to check if the service provider that you're gonna use, they are willing to support you, because that's the only way that this solution will work. So and those are the elements that business needs to look like, setting priorities, planning the resources, see the timeline. When I say 4 weeks, I mean, I'm not just giving numbers. It's real, because we work on daily basis on this, and if when you have the right resources, when you have the right technology, when you have the right information, there is collaboration. There is a chemistry between both parties. 4 weeks, it's achievable.
Mm. That's really, really fast in terms of implementation. I've seen other solutions that take 6 months, for example. So that's very, very fast.
That's to be honest, with the payroll, obviously, I would say that in general, payroll are more complex, yeah, to be implemented because
Mm.
obviously, and even customers sometimes are reluctant to change their payroll provider in general because even if they are not happy because it's cost obviously involved. They need to they do the integration again. They need to connect again to a different provider. But payments, for example, are easier, are faster to be implemented. By again, if you are not happy with your payroll provider, definitely, I understand that it might take time because it's more complex. But definitely, I would look for a different provider, Taylor, if you are having the issues, because um, you know if you start having issues from the beginning, when you're gonna go into the end, there is still gonna be issues. So you're trying to fix it by the time you go, yeah. But it's not gonna be efficient. If you launch a project which is going to have issues from the beginning, you will take this issue with all your payroll cycle and with all your journey. Yes, you're trying to fix it, but still you're going to suffer in terms of the cycles for the future. So it's what I recommend. Even if you're not happy with your payroll provider, please trying to look for a different one because otherwise you will have you will not sleep when the payroll engine is going to start kicking off because obviously you are worried that the payroll is not calculated right on time, and this is going to impact obviously the payments.
Mm. That's very, very interesting. Well, thank you for that roadmap. It was very, very, very good to hear of the steps that businesses can take. We are now coming to the end of our conversation, Achille. I could have spoken to you all day. We are going to move on to our Q&A in just a second. Before we do that, and while I think our viewers submit a few more questions, we've got a couple coming through. Katie, can you just give me like a little bit of a rundown of Papaya and its solution? I mean, what kind of currencies are you using? Can you tell me a bit more about your technology?
Yes, absolutely. So, as Papaya, as you can see from this slide, we are trying to transform the workforce payments. So we have a coverage on 160 plus countries with 130 plus currencies. We use obviously big financial institution, which is JP Morgan and Citibank. We have obviously technology in place where there is not obviously manual intervention. The customers, they can have a full visibility in terms of logging to the platform, how much money they need to send to pay their legal entity for that specific payroll cycle. Into the platform, you have automation in terms of when you need to send the funds to your wallet. We offer wallets to our customers. They are safeguarded accounts. They are protected in terms of client money rules. You can reconcile your wallet very easily at the legal entity level. You can do for finance and treasury departments, you can choose the period, you can customize it, you can use an Excel or you can use a PDF if you need to submit information to the auditors. We have 95% of same day payments. So we have in countries bank account. We are regulated in several countries. So we are offering all the key ingredients to have a payroll payments successful business, which I was mentioning earlier, which is transparency, efficiency, cost effectiveness. So probably I would recommend the audience to have a look, to have an initial conversation with us, and we are here to help to see. So we are very transparent. So if you have let's say a legal entity that is working fine, we are not forcing a customer to say, actually bring with Papaya. We are here to help the customers where they facing challenges, where they are facing issues. So, and we're not going to change what is working. What we're trying to help to the customers to change what is not working, what it can be improved, in terms of, end-to-end process, globalization, cost effectiveness, and efficiency.
Mm, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that rundown of the company. Um, I'm really really pleased to hear your approach. Like, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Um, and sort of your tailored approach to each client, I think is really really fascinating. We are going to move on to our Q&A. We only have time for a couple of questions. So one second, I'm just going to have a look. So real-time payments are showing amazing promise at the moment, but what about maintaining security and compliance across borders? Achille, that one's for you. Let me know what you think.
Yeah. So again, in real time, obviously, we need to make sure that the companies that they're offering real time payments, they have, they are regulating, and they making sure that they can execute those kind of payments. They are meeting the obligation and the regulation that are requested from a specific country, and obviously be ahead of the game. So trying to capture if any changes are made for a specific country. So as I said, the real-time payments, they are pretty much, when you have an in-country's bank account, you can make it. Understanding how your provider is executing those payments, ask questions to make sure that they are compliant, and how they're gonna execute payments on your behalf. So that's where I would like to go in that sense, Taylor.
That's really, really important. And I think it really doubles down on the importance of compliance in all of
Yes.
this. You can't afford to trip up, and you have to choose a vendor who knows it backwards. There is no other option. I see we have a lot of other questions come through. I'm very sorry, everybody. We have run out of time with this webinar. Very, very unfortunate. But what I would say to everybody who does have questions for Achille, or if you're interested in Papaya's solution, please feel free to reach out to him directly, or through the company's channels. Achille Pagliaro, the Senior Director of Payment Success at Papaya Global. It's been a really, really fascinating conversation today to talk about a world of real-time payments beyond traditional banking. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope we have time to catch up again soon on this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining us. If you'd like to find out more, head to Papaya or fintechfutures.com. Thank you and goodbye.